It's been over 3 months now since I started taking Mounjaro, and I've lost over 50 pounds. I've gone from a dress size 20 being very tight to a size 10 being quite snug. I've gone from a BMI of 34, which is nearly morbidly obese, to today hitting a BMI of 25, which is healthy, and I am thrilled with that. Not that BMI is everything, but to celebrate, I want to do an update video. I want to explain what I've done to lose the weight, the challenges that I faced over the last few weeks because it has got quite tricky, and my big plan for February, because I'm going to do a very radical change that I am hoping will make a big difference. So if we've not met before, hi, my name's Emma. I'm an NHS and private GP by background. I am a registered doctor here in the UK, which means that if I accept so much as a sandwich from a drug company, I have to declare it. And so my videos are not sponsored or endorsed by any drug company at all. So let me answer your questions today and start off with some quick and easy ones. Hi, editing me here. I just want to address 2 points very quickly. Firstly, yes, I am still on 2.5 milligrams of Mounjaro. I haven't increased my dose because I am losing weight on 2.5 milligrams. It is true that I could increase it to 5 milligrams and see if I lose more, but it's working now, so why risk the side effects? On 2.5 milligrams of Mounjaro, I feel generally healthier, and I'm not sure why. I've talked about this before. Is it my thyroid? Do I not make GLP-1? Who really knows? But I definitely feel healthier just for taking it. The second thing that it does is allow me to be in a calorie deficit without feeling really off and unable to function. So I can be in a calorie deficit and be quite comfortable now. And the third thing that it does is about 3 to 5 weeks after I went on it, I started to get fullness after I ate. And that has continued to evolve, even though the level of Mounjaro in my system will now be at a steady state. And I'm going to talk more about that in today's video. And then the second point that I want to address is the speed of my weight loss. People have said I should be concerned and it's not healthy. I spent about a year before I went on Mounjaro having investigations for everything because I had lots of niggly underlying symptoms and I found nothing that was helpful for this anyway. So I am not worried about anything underlying that's causing me to lose weight that could be scary. The second thing to bear in mind with the size of my weight loss is that everybody is different. And so the 1 to 2 pound recommendation is one of these generic recommendations that isn't right for everyone. Saying the same thing will happen to me at 5'3" as a female with my background of pure sugar diet, granted lots of exercise too, but trying to eat whole foods and then never feeling full and eating more and more and more to try and get satiety, versus somebody else who's on a weight loss journey. Maybe they're 6'8", they're male, they're an athlete, their diet's really healthy already. You wouldn't expect us to lose at the same rate. So when it comes to generic guidelines, I know as a doctor, you need to challenge guidelines sometimes. The most important thing for me is to know that what I'm doing is healthy and that I'm not doing anything extreme or dramatic, which I'm not. And so I'm not really worried about the speed of it. The most important thing, as I said, is what I'm doing day to day. And that is what I'm going to talk about more in this video. How many calories am I eating a day? I could not imagine a life more tedious than one where I have to track calories. I don't even really have to imagine that because I've spent most of my life so far doing it, and I refuse to do it going forward. But having had those experiences, I had my first calorie counting book before I was at secondary school. I can eyeball a plate of food and know roughly what I'm eating. So I know a typical day for me is somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 calories. Not that I specifically track it. I have some days where I eat less, and that's fine. I know some people are very fearmongery around eating less. To those people, I would recommend you pick up a book by Dr. Jason Fung. He's a kidney doctor. He's incredible. And he talks about how in his career, he used to see a lot of patients whose kidneys were failing because of their type 2 diabetes, which more often than not was driven by their obesity. And he was frustrated that we were just plowing people with medications rather than actually treating the obesity. So yes, I have some days where I eat less and I don't worry about it. And I have other days where I eat quite a lot more. And I don't plan to eat more. It's just some days I wake up and my body says, we need more food today, and I'm okay with that. And it's nice that I can hear my body enough now to know that it's craving foods. And I have a much better mind-body connection because of the Mounjaro and because I'm generally eating better rather than before Mounjaro, where my body just kept saying more all the time, and sugar definitely improved. The days where I eat more are so important. One, because if my body's asking for things, I need to give it. Two, because if you go into a calorie deficit for any length of time, it has been shown that our bodies are incredible and they adapt to the lack of food by burning fewer calories. So you do slow down your metabolism. So I like to have these days where I shock my body a bit by eating a bit more so it keeps my metabolism high. And from a mentality point of view, the third really big benefit of having these days where you eat more is that not every day needs to be a diet day. There are so many people around food, and by people I do mean me, who are black and white thinkers. So you can restrict really well for a few weeks, and then you have one day where you eat a tiny bit of chocolate and it's all over. So having these days of not being in a deficit, so good for your mentality. And I know somebody's going to ask me how often I have those days. I would say probably about once a week. Sometimes, depending on my cycle, it can be a few more in a week, but I don't worry about it too much. I also then don't compensate the next day by having fewer calories because I had more the day before. I would say that I don't have any days where I hugely overeat anymore. I can't say I've had a single day where I've eaten huge amounts. I had Christmas Day where I ate a little bit more. I had a 4-course meal, and we've recently been on a family trip where I ate different types of food, and I really wanted a scone with jam and cream. I'll eat all that stuff and not fret too much about it. I really enjoy my food. I definitely feel, even from the beginning on this Mounjaro, I've never said, like I have done previously, I'm on a diet now. Let's not enjoy life. Wait till I'm thin, then we enjoy life. I've not done any of that this time. I've just said, right, this is a permanent change because I might be on Mounjaro forever. Let's just enjoy life, but spend most of the time in a calorie deficit. And that is what I do. Which brings me, I've not quite finished food yet, but the next question I get so much is, what is my goal weight? I don't have there's a lie. I have a goal weight from years of chronic dieting. I think anybody who has chronically dieted has a figure in their head that they think that's where happiness resides. And so for me, that's my wedding day weight. That is the lowest weight I've ever been as an adult. I'm very close to that. I'm within a stone of that at the moment, which is incredible. That's where I thought I should be. I'm not sure that's the right weight for me now, because when I got to that weight, I really had to restrict to get there. And so I'm not actually sure what my weight should be, but I'm doing this thing at the moment where all those foods that I eat on my cravey days, I'm trying to introduce them to my days where, just day to day, so that I don't have days where I feel I need to crave them. And that's probably going to increase my calories a little bit. And my weight is still coming down, though I'm not too bothered about it coming down much further. And so at some point, those will level out. And at that point, that's where I'll settle. When I was previously restricting, I still liked my junk food. And one thing that is definitely changing on the Mounjaro is that I'm going more and more for whole foods, and I'm getting rid of as much ultra processed from my diet as I can. Over the last few months, I love McDonald's. I have a real thing about McDonald's because I used to work these horrible 11 a.m. till 11 p.m. shifts where they were really long. You'd often finish late. And so you didn't have much time between shifts. You were always driving to and from work. It was a long commute. And I went to McDonald's a lot. And I always found McDonald's was super satisfying. It would fill me up. And it's one of the few foods that I go and get 9 chicken nuggets and a few fries. I feel full after I've eaten it. And that's why I go for it all the time. It's great for that. And then a few weeks ago, I decided to dig out a recipe from a vegetarian cooking course I went on for this beautiful meal, which is carrots, leeks, parsnip, halloumi. It's got all sorts, cabbage, and a little bit of pasta in there. I ate this meal with my husband, and it's meant to serve 4. We divided it between the 2 of us. I was still insanely hungry afterwards. Whereas with my nuggets, I get full. But what I've been doing over the last few months is tracking my hunger against what foods I'm eating. And what I have seen, and it's got bigger and bigger, is that when I eat at McDonald's, I get instantly full and I can feel good satiety that day, but the next day I'll be hungry again. Whereas when I eat the healthy food, I don't really get any satiety, which is just annoying, but then my baseline hunger the next day is much better. So I know that's obvious. I know everybody knows that's the case, but my body has never responded normally to foods before. I used to do keto because I was really into weightlifting and I wanted more energy, and I had a lot of friends who were on it who were getting loads of benefits. It just made me nauseous. Now my diet is fairly keto most of the time, and it gives me shed loads of energy. It suppresses my hunger. It's as though my body can now respond to foods in the way that it should, and that may be the Mounjaro, but I also wonder if it's because on the whole my balance is going towards more of those whole foods, because as I've seen this trend, I've realized that I think the ultra processed foods are causing me to be ravenously hungry. And so when people ask me what my goal is no longer anything to do with weight. I'm happy. I'm BMI 25. I need some kind of places that I can go to tell people my BMI, but my goal is no longer weight related. My goal is about eating more whole foods. It's about feeling at my best every day and achieving a way of eating and a mentality with food where I can enjoy it socially, because the social aspect of food is massive. Those are my focuses. And that has been a big shift over the last few weeks to move away from, oh, how can I optimize today for weight loss, to, oh, how can I optimize how I feel? What can I eat now that's going to make me feel good later? And then also assessing the way I'm thinking to think, is this something long term that I can do? Is this a healthy way of thinking? What's driving where I'm at? This is why I journal. I think journaling is such a good way of monitoring yourself and keeping yourself in check. And what I've realized is that next month I want to do something really quite radical. Next month, I want to cut out all processed food for 4 weeks. So for the whole of February, I only want to eat unprocessed food and see what happens. I don't care about losing weight. I just don't want to eat anything processed. So over the next few days, I'm working on my definition of processed versus unprocessed. I'm coming up with some good healthy meals. I'm getting recipes. And then next month, I want to see what happens to how I feel if I just eat unprocessed food. I'm hoping this will be the thing that really tips my hunger over into feeling entirely normal and healthy, because I think I'm nearly there. I also wonder if this could be the key to me coming off the Mounjaro and maintaining the gains that I've got all round. And it's also a lifestyle that I want to share with my family. I just think it is healthier. Everyone is talking at the moment about ultra processed food and how those foods are addictive. And I very much think the reason that I got into the state that I was, where I was always hungry and uncomfortable, is because of ultra processed food. And so I want to see if I can get rid of it completely and see what happens. I think that covers the majority of the diet stuff. I will say I tend to eat 1 or 2 meals a day as well. That has been consistent from the start. I've never liked 3 meals a day. Size-wise, what exercise have I been doing to lose the weight? Well, in my previous video, I mentioned how the first day I woke up after taking Mounjaro, I felt like I'd already done my workout, and I wanted to see how long that would last for. So I didn't exercise for the first time in years for the first few weeks of Mounjaro. And when I realized that feeling was never going to go and that I just missed doing exercise, I started reintroducing it. I also didn't want to introduce too much exercise early on because, particularly when I started getting the satiety, exercise can affect my satiety. If I do low intensity exercise, I get hungrier. If I do high intensity exercise, I get less hungry. So I didn't want to make it too complicated. Just change one thing at a time, learn how to deal with that, and then add the next thing. So in the last few weeks, I really have started stepping up my exercise. I now do a run a few times a week and I weightlift most days. We just have quite heavy free weights in the house. I did used to competitively weightlift. I've been on national martial arts teams. I'm used to a lot of intense exercise. I do lift quite heavy. And to those who are saying, oh, your weight loss must all be muscle, as long as I can still squat 100 kilos, I'm really not too concerned about my muscle mass. It is natural with all forms of weight loss to lose some muscle, and there is no evidence on Mounjaro that you lose any more muscle mass than if you were just doing a calorie restriction diet. Side effects. I only ever have one side effect on Mounjaro, and that is going dizzy when I stand up. This is something called postural hypotension. I had it before. It became much more notable when I started Mounjaro, and in the last 2 or 3 weeks it's become even more noticeable. So in the past I only used to get it when I went from lying down to standing up. Now I get it from sometimes sitting down to standing up, and my blood pressure is quite low. It's always been quite low, but I'm not really sure why this is. I just know now in the night, if I ever stand up because my son calls me or something happens, if I stand up at night, I need to stand and count to 10 before I move, which isn't something I've ever had to do before because I feel the wooziness and sometimes I need to sit down for a second. So that is my only side effect. Have you had to buy all new clothes? I would have loved to buy all new clothes, but the reality is we don't have much money at the moment, so I'm back in my old clothes. Like, this is a top that I've been wearing for a few weeks now, and it still had the tag on it. I'd kept all my slimmer clothes, my size 10s and 12s from my 20s, underneath our huge bed. I've dug all of those out. Half of them have tags on, so I'm enjoying my previous shopping. It was really nice on Christmas Eve was the first time I really got into smaller clothes, and I was there trying everything on. It was like shopping, but you already know you like everything. And so I've dug all those clothes out, and I did stay with some of my bigger clothes for a while. I like big baggy clothes, they make me feel lovely, but I've had jeans fall down while I'm out. So I went on Christmas Eve and bought my first size 10 pair of jeans in a long time. But yeah, I have had to swap my wardrobe over now because one of my friends said I looked like I was homeless when I went over. It was just I was going to a house for a coffee, so I wanted to be comfy, so I just wore comfy stuff. So yeah, I either need to invest in a belt for those pieces, or I do already have a lot of smaller clothes. So I am a little bit disappointed that I've managed to do this at a point where I don't have loads of disposable income. I always thought I would go to Selfridges and do a personal shop. I've done that in the past. It's amazing, and they'll tailor the clothes to you as well. That's what I've always wanted to do, but I just can't afford to do that. Though, that being said, I have treated myself to something that is a piece of jewellery from Boodles, and I went to get it years ago because I just think it's beautiful and a bit different, and it just didn't look nice on me. Well, I didn't like the way it looked on me, and I've always wanted it, and so I thought I'm going to try it again. So I went and I tried it. It looked lovely, and now I'm just waiting for that to be made, and so I'm going to pick that up and I'll show you it when I get it. But that is my piece to celebrate getting healthy, and yeah, so that's going to be my big indulgence. I probably should have bought clothes, but I really, really like this piece. So yeah, that is it for my video today. Hopefully this was helpful in some way to you. Obviously what works for me won't necessarily work for you. This is pure anecdote, doesn't mean that it's evidence of anything. I'm a big believer in that. You'll hear stories of everything on these medications, particularly things like mood. I've heard people say that it completely gets rid of all their joy, something called anhedonia. I've heard other people say that it's cured their depression, and you hear everything in between. We're all different, and that's great and that's fine. But it does mean that if you go on these medications, you need to be in tune with yourself, not what other people tell you that you should be feeling. So yeah, that is it for today. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye.